Now that Major 3 has ended, let's talk about the MVP ladder, the best players for each game mode, as well as the top 5 players in the game. Make sure to sub to the channel for more CDL content that I'm going to be posting in the near future. I'm not really sure what to kind of title this video, but like I said, we're going to be going over the top 3 in the MVP ladder, the top 5 players in every game mode, as well as the top 5 players in the entire game itself. First up, let's talk about our MVP ladder now following Major 3. Now you can see the arrows on the side. This indicates whether or not they moved up, moved down, or stayed the same in their position from the last ladder I made. Since I haven't made a video yet, I did actually make one of these graphics and post it on my Twitter, but for the other ones, you're not going to see the arrows just yet because this is the first time I made those. But for this one, you can see Scrap, Major winner, MVP of Major 3, moves up to number 1. I think well deserved, playing like one of the best players in the league, and definitely number 1 on my MVP ladder. Cellium dropping down from 1 to 2. I mean, Atlanta FaZe is still number 1 in the CDL rankings, in the standings, I believe. Cellium still finding himself in the top 3. Absolutely makes sense. The dude is a lights out player, one of the best players in the league, and really continues to put up crazy numbers. And then number 3, I have Shotzi moving into my top 3. Hydra fell out of my top 3 with New York struggles and Optic kind of showing how much better they can be. Plus Shotzi kind of playing like an absolutely insane player at Major 3. I think is enough to push him into the top 3 of my MVP ladder. Now, I mean, you could see my logos on the top. So obviously these are things that this is basically my opinion. A lot of this is backed up on stat, which you're going to get into in a second. But this MVP ladder is the most based on my opinion because yes, stats back up these players, but of course Shotzi is not one of the top 3 statistic players in the league, but his impact and the way he played in Major 3 puts him there for me. Make sure to stay tuned till the end of the video for the top 5 players in the league based on rating, which is my own formula sort of thing I created to actually rate these players similar to FIFA or 2K, so stay tuned for that. Now for the hardpoint ladder, this is also based off statistics and based off of my formula that I have. Now this is totaling up hardpoint kills per 10 minutes, hardpoint KD, hardpoint damage per 10 minutes, and hardpoint hill time. Those 4 stats, they all have assigned values based on how the player's stats look, and I totaled them up, and these are your top 5 players for the hardpoint game mode. Scrap coming in number 1, then Sib, Dashi, Hydra, Octane, the most surprising one on here. Mainly Octane makes it because he is like a top 10 to 15 player in every hardpoint stat, and then he's also like a top, I think he's top 3 or top 2. I can actually look at it real quick on my side monitor. He's actually number 1 or number 2 when it comes to hardpoint hill time. So the hill time pushes him over the edge and brings him into the top 5 in the hardpoint ladder. Obviously, all these players, are great at hardpoint. If you watch, any of the CDL, these are great hardpoint players. You have Scrap, who's really, really good, especially when he gets hill time. You have Sib, Dashi, Hydra, all really good slayers. Scrap mainly is number 1 because not only is he slaying, but he's getting hill time, which is what differentiates him from Octane, because Octane has a lot of hill time, but he doesn't slay as much as Scrap, although both of these guys make the top 5. Now let's talk top 5 in Search and Destroy. None other than a BZ. Who else would you expect to be number 1 on this ladder? I mean, the dude is a phenomenal SND player. He literally has a 99 rating in every single stat for Search and Destroy. That's just how crazy he is. Then we're followed up by Pred and Afro, another 2 SMG players who are really, really good. Afro is super underrated, mainly because of how bad Minnesota is performing. We all know how good Pred is, though, of course. And then Beans and TJ, maybe people that you wouldn't expect if you're more of a casual fan of the CDL, but Beans playing lights out in Search and Destroy, as well as Tej, another player who's really, really good at Search and Destroy specifically, and that's the game mode he thrives in. Just to give you an idea as to how good some of these players are at Search and Destroy, looking at their stats, obviously a BZ, Pred, Afro, all up here in SND kills per round, and then you can also find Tej and Beans in here in near the top 10 as well. Then if you go to SND KD, these players, I mean, a BZ is up there, Afro, Pred, Beans, and then Tej also up there, and it's really the First Bloods that also kind of set these guys apart. You can see Beans, Tej, these guys all are putting themselves, I mean, BZ, Pred, and Afro are all in like the top 3, 4 for every single stat, but Tej and Beans find themselves consistently in that top 8, top 10 area, which is what pushes them over that edge and gets them to stay here in the top 5 ladder. So this is top 5 SND. And for our last top 5 game mode, and then we'll get into our top 5 rated players, we obviously have the Control, Scrap, another number 1 spot, Pred, another top spot, and then Hydra, also another top spot, but Envoy and Nero are 2 we haven't seen yet, then find themselves in this top 5 for Control. Both players are really good at Control because they get a lot of kills. Obviously, they're entry SMG players, they're aggressive submachine gun players. players that are going to run around the map. They get a lot of kills in control, and obviously in control, getting kills is pretty much the most important thing because you only have so many lives per round. But these guys are in the top when it comes to getting kills in rounds of control, and that's why they get pushed into this top 5. And a big shout out to Hydra for finding himself in a bunch of these top 5s. The dude is a really good slayer, one of the best slayers in the entire league. And if it wasn't for some of the inconsistencies of the ARs behind him, we could see this team doing even better, similar to how they did in Major 1 when they won that event. I think Hydra is one of the players who is always going to be in the top 5 for many years to come, but he just needs to get on a team that can be super consistent, because he can be one of the best players in the league. He just needs some consistency behind him. And last but not least, the top 5 rated players in the league based on my formula. Now, these are statistically the best 5 players in the league. I should have put their ratings actually on here. So just to give you an idea of what the ratings are, Pred is a 94 rated, Scrap is a 93, Hydra is a 91, Abizi is a 90, and then Celium is actually tied with Sib and Afro at an 87. I decided to put Celium because I have him in my top 3 for MVP, as well as FaZe is the best team standings wise in the league. So I think Celium, I think that edge over Afro and Sib is what puts him in my top 5. But 4 90 rated plus players and then Celium at an 87. I think this top 5, if you watch the CDL, you can almost agree that these are the 5 best players in the league. Maybe based on eye test, you would switch up the way you have them ranked. But I think no doubt, you know, these are the top 5 players in the league, and these guys prove it not only by watching but also statistically. I think one of the coolest and most important things to point out after this top 5 is that Abizi is actually rated higher than Celium. A lot of people, when they talk about Atlanta FaZe, they tend to, you know, say Celium is their MVP, Celium is their best player, and yes, he is probably technically a lot of time, his KD wise, that KD statistic, he's always the best. I mean, he's the best in the league when it comes to kill death ratio, but when it comes to the other statistics that matter, like hardpoint kills per 10 minutes, control kills per 10 minutes, first blood percentage in SND, kills per round in SND, Abizi edges out Celium in all of those stats. And then when you total everything up and apply a rating to it, it actually puts him higher than Celium. I mean, as you can see on the screen, right, he's the 4th best compared to Celium, who is tied for 5th. And I think it's important for people to know that Celium, yes, I have him my MVP, but I do think you could even swap him out for Abizi in the MVP ladder. Both of these guys have an insane impact and play so well for Atlanta FaZe, and that's one of the reasons that they are, you know, the best team in the league by standing, is because they have 2 of the top 5 players. Let me know what you think of this style of video, going over the top 5s for all different categories and kind of my rating system, which I can make a video about if you want to see more in depth into the rating system. But I think it's really cool to kind of apply this rating to players and give them that FIFA or NBA 2K style rating, which is something that's easier to grasp for player, or not for players, but for fans and viewers of the CDL, to kind of get like this overall idea of really who are the top players, who aren't. Obviously, it's not perfect. It doesn't apply every single stat. Like, I don't have stats for bomb plants, bomb defuses, control tick captures, that kind of stuff. I just use the stats that are on the Breaking Point website. But I think it does a really good job of getting an understanding of who the top players are. And I think, like I said, looking at the top 5, you can't argue that Pred, Scrap, Hydra, Abizi, Celium, those are the top 5 guys. I don't think that can be argued. If you enjoyed this video and this style of video, make sure to drop a like, comment down below anything you want to know, you're interested in, that sort of thing. I'll definitely reply to you or even make a whole video on it. And with that being said, hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.